I now recognize Ronan and Orna Nutra to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your kind words.
Yes, thank you for having us here, and thank you for all of your support, really. We are Ronan and Orna Nutra, New York residents and parents of Omer, who was abducted by Hamas on Saturday, October 7th, and has been held hostage 54 days today. 54 days since the last sign of life. Can you imagine? It truly is unimaginable. Unimaginable that something like the events of October 7th could even take place. Unimaginable that after 54 days, not only is he still held hostage, but that the Red Cross has not been allowed access. Unimaginable that we find comfort in the fact that he was taken hostage and not murdered on that day.
We'd like to tell you a little bit about our son, Omer. He's this big 6'2", tall guy, always with a smile on his face. He's a good friend, the kind that brings people together. In some ways, Omer grew up like any other kid on Long Island, crazy about sports, any sport, but especially basketball. Captain of his high school sports teams, regional president of his youth group, a true young leader. He's a dual citizen of both United States and Israel, and we raised him with a deep connection to both of his homelands. After graduating school, although accepted to college, he decided to take a gap year in Israel on a program together with his Israeli peer group. The closer he grew to his new Israeli friends, the more he reflected on his own identity. As a descendant of Holocaust survivors on both sides, both me and my wife, he understood the importance of strong Israel. So he made a decision to volunteer and join his new friends and serve in the IDF to protect the Jewish land. He was drafted as a lone soldier in the Armed Corps, and in his most recent position, he was stationed just on the post on the border with Gaza, as a tank commander and as an officer.
We last spoke with Omer on Friday night, October 6th. In our last conversation, he indicated that he was looking forward to a quiet and peaceful weekend after a really stressful month protecting the border. We all know what happened only a few hours later. He was protecting people when he was taken by Hamas. And since this day, our lives have completely turned upside down. We spend every waking hour fighting in his name, speaking on his behalf, in front of communities, with the government, with you, on the media. We're deeply grateful for the support that we've received from the U.S. government, from President Biden, who's committed since day one to bringing the hostages home. There has been some progress this week, but Omer is still not with us. And the clock continues to tick, and not in our favor. There are still 150 hostages in Gaza, deep under the ground in the dark, some badly injured, with no medicine, with little food. So we appreciate your support, but we urge you to press to bring the international community to demand proof of life and other basic humanitarian requirements, and to bring them home as soon as possible. We must do everything to bring them back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ronan and Orna. I now recognize Ruby and Hagit Kin.
Thank you for having us today. We are here representing our son, Itai Chen, 19. But we also are representing 160 hostages. And the problem that we have, Chairman, time is running out. I'd like to recognize amongst the hostages the 9 U.S. citizens that are still not with us: Liat Benin, Omer Nutra, Idan Alexander, Hirsch Goldberg, Poland, Sagi Dekelchen, Gadi and Judy Hagai, Pete Siegel, and my son, our son, Itai Chen. We urge you and the U.S. government to do whatever it can. Time is ticking, and it's not in our favor. Itai grew up as a dual citizen, both living in Israel and visiting family here in the United States, Plainview, Fair Lawn, New Jersey, Boston. And when he got to the age of 18, he joined the IDF, was also stationed at a base next to the Gaza border. Important to say, in protection mode, protecting a sovereign part of the state of Israel that is not in some sort of international conflict, and was abducted and kidnapped on that Black Saturday. We had initial contact with him, but as the hours went by, we understood this wasn't a typical Saturday of some missiles flowing from one side to the other. We tried to get in contact with his team members, with other members that saw him, but contact was lost. Pretty soon, 9 a.m. in the morning was the last that we had any contact with him. Initially, we thought somehow he's been busy. He might, make it out. But after not hearing from him for 36 hours, we went to the headquarters of the police as a missing person and tried to figure out if the authorities have any clue about Itai. He was defined initially as missing in action, meaning nobody was able to identify him physically in the field. He was not in one of the hospitals, not in one of the deceased lists. That gave us some hope. Maybe he'll show up. After 4 days, Thursday morning, 6 a.m., we got a knock on the door. Just to explain to you what that is, you have on the other side 2 high-ranking Army officials. Believe me, you don't want your enemies to be able in that situation where you understand you do not want to open that door. But you also understand that there's no other choice but to open that door where your heart is going 200 miles an hour. We here today are sitting as the lucky ones that got the notification from the IDF is that he was abducted, kidnapped by the Hamas terrorist organization. That's the lucky thing, to get a notice. Ever since, we have no proof of life and no indication of his medical status. We just came today from the International Red Cross, explaining to them that the way that they operate in discreet manner is not the way that we expect them to operate in this case. They need to be vocal. They are the witnesses. They are the ones that see the hostages going out. They are the ones that need to be vocal and get the international community behind them. And explaining to the Hamas, they need to know and understand this is not acceptable by the international community. They crossed the red line by not providing medical attention or by allowing any type of visitation. And we urge the international community, this is not a U.S. issue. It's an international community humanitarian issue that all of the international community needs to get behind in order to solve this problem. We'd like to thank the Biden administration, the Qatar government, for putting in place this deal. This gives us hope. On one hand, we are happy for our family members, such as the Naftali family, for being whole again as much as possible. But there's also more work to be done. And we urge President Biden, the international community, to do what it can to get as many hostages out as soon as possible. The interdiction of the Hamas, that could wait for another day, for another hour. First, hostages out, then we deal with Hamas. And it's an important distinction that we, the families, want to convey here as well. To summarize, we live in a different universe than you do. It's difficult to explain. But all of us now are family members to this different universe that we live in. And we need you to do whatever you can. Holiday season is here. Unfortunately, we celebrated Thanksgiving with an empty chair in our table. We want to be whole again with our families. God bless America. God bless you. And hopefully we could be whole again and go back to our previous lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruby and Hagit. We now recognize Liz Hirsch-Naftali.
3 days ago, Abigail came home. But when we say came home, she came back to Israel. She did not come to her home because her home was destroyed on October 7th.
Can you move the microphone closer?
It's not.
I can hear you.
Oh, closer.
Push the button and make sure the
Hello?
microphone's on.
How's that? Okay. Oh, now it's too long. So Abigail came home 3 days ago, but Abigail did not come home to her house. Abigail did not come home to her parents. Abigail came back to Israel, and we are blessed by the miracle of her coming home to Israel. But when she got home, her parents, who were both murdered on October 7th by Hamas terrorists, were not there to greet her. On October 7th, her mother was gunned down by Hamas terrorists in their home. Her brother, Michael, her sister, Amalia, were both there. They went outside where their father, Roe, was with Abigail, who was 3. They started to run. A Hamas terrorist gunned him down and killed him. And he fell on Abigail, covering her. The 6 and 10-year-old ran. They thought Abigail also had been murdered. They locked themselves in a closet for 14 hours. Those 14 hours, we had 2 people reporting to us. They were a 6 and 10-year-old about what happened on the kibbutz that day. Their grandmother, who was also from this kibbutz Kfar Aza, was in Bulgaria on a trip with the kibbutz. She called her grandchildren, a 6 and a 10-year-old, in a closet. It was dark. And she said, "Why is it dark?" She knew it was daytime. And it was a beautiful day. And they said, "Because there are Hamas terrorists here and they have just killed our parents and Abigail." She made them get out of the closet to show her from thousands of miles away the body of her daughter killed. Then they locked themselves in where they stayed for 14 hours until they were able to be secured with other relatives on the kibbutz, where most people stayed for over 30 hours before they could actually be taken from this kibbutz because there was so many terrorists. Abigail managed to crawl out from under her father's body, but we did not learn this for 3 days because there was no opportunity for us to understand. She crawled out from underneath her father's body with this blood all over her and went to a neighbor who she knew. The youngest child in this family had goes to gone with her to nursery school. They took her in, they locked her in the safe room, this mother and her 3 children, and the father, he went outside to protect the kibbutz. He was injured and did not come back. What we learned a few days later was that a witness had seen a mother and children being taken from the kibbutz by Hamas terrorists. That was it. 50 days. We did not know anything about Abigail's whereabouts. We did not know anything about this mother Hagar and her 3 children. We didn't know if they were together. We prayed that a 3-year-old was not alone, but was with a woman, a mother who she knew. 50 days. Now, we are blessed because Abigail came home to Israel 3 days ago. But when she arrived, and she had no parents, she was dark, she had no light. Her aunt and her grandmother went to meet her. She was thin, she was hungry. I won't even go into more description, but she had been somewhere in the dark for 50 days. The only blessing is that this woman, Hagar, had taken care of Abigail as though she were one of her own. When Abigail saw her siblings and her cousins, these young people coming to visit her in the hospital, she blossomed. The light came back. And every day we hope for Abigail to continue in this process. Think about it, a 6 and 10-year-old who have spent 50 days thinking they abandoned their sister, that if they had thought that she was alive and brought her to the closet, she would not have been there. What I'm trying to explain is the effects of this for the entire family. We think about Abigail. I also think about Michael and Amalia, a 6 and a 10-year-old carrying this in their hearts. The stories keep going on and on. We are blessed that Abigail is with her aunt, her uncle, her cousins, her sister, her brother, her grandparents. And some people might say, Liz, why are you still here? You won the lotto. Your relative is home with her family. But what has happened in the last 6 weeks, and many of you saw me 6 weeks ago, and all of you know this picture of Abigail. And 6 weeks ago, I put this picture of Abigail on my desk, and my daughter said, how can you look at that? It's so sad. This is my daughter, Noah. And I said, this is my strength. This is our hope. This is why we are doing what we are going to do for the next. I naively thought it wouldn't take this long. I thought, how long could this take? But what I'm here to say is these people who are here speaking about their American sons, those folks in Israel and around the world who are waiting for their loved ones to come back, we're now a family. We are here for each other. And I will continue, and Noah will continue, and our family in Israel will continue to support the return of Omer, Itai, Idan, and all of these young people. I also want to bring out that there are young women that we have to get out of there, because I will not say what is happening, but we all know what is happening to young women. They need to come out. We have other children. We have old people. We need to get them out. And I so appreciate all the work that everybody here is doing. And I can only add my words of, Abigail's the hope. We see that people are coming out. We need to keep them coming out. We need more to come out, and we need them to come out really soon. Because when I see those faces, and you all see those faces, after 52, 53 days, they can't stay there much longer. So I want to thank you for having us, and thank you for really making this your priority, and that we know that this is something everyone here agrees on. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Liz. And Noah, thank you for being here with the release. That you stay involved is so important. God bless you. As we proceed to questions, we'll begin with a further statement by Chairman Mike McCall, who has another commitment. But Chairman McCall, thank you.
No, thank you, Chairman. Liz, thank you for that powerful story and to all the families. I have a meeting with some ambassadors from the Middle East to talk about this issue, among others, and we will not rest. This committee will not rest until we get your loved ones home and get our Americans home. And as the mother of the hostage told me, lightness will defeat the darkness, as you mentioned. Abigail was in darkness, and now she's in light. And that is my great hope. And as Moses said, let my people go. Let my people go. So, shalom. I will see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.